Can you take a few minutes, let's get straight to it, to tell us about your departure from ESPN?
Yeah, I mean, look, it all started really good a few years ago. We can go back to 2019, 3 years ago. ESPN gave me a new contract. I'd already been there with the jump. And in the contract was that I was going to host the NBA Finals. And you guys have known me for years.
Yes.
I have covered this sport for decades. The idea that I was going to host the NBA Finals, that
Everything
was
to you.
my dream job.
That was going to be your first time
That
doing
was
it?
going to be my first time doing it. It meant the world. I mean, I called every executive involved personally to thank them. I mean, I was so excited. They put everything in writing in the contract. They put out a big press release about it. One of the things I asked for in the contract was that any pregame show I did would be a continuation of our daily show, The Jump, because it was something we started together.
Baby.
I was so proud of. And I just also didn't want any confusion. There's a lot of politics at ESPN, and I knew that the NBA Countdown job was still open, and I didn't want anyone to think that I was trying to horn in on NBA Countdown. I wasn't. I wanted to stay with the jump. It was important to me. So I thought making that distinction would really help things. And Maria Taylor ended up getting the NBA Countdown job. I really wanted to make an effort to welcome her, to open my door to her. I sent her flowers when she got the job because I was really, really happy for her.
What changed on how you felt in the workplace?
Well, things got complicated later that season. Y'all know it was 2020, right?
Yeah,
So
the world was
we had a pandemic.
crazy spot.
There was the tragic murder of your friend, George Floyd. A lot of difficult conversations with this country looking itself in the face, seeing what had to change and be different. And the New York Times did an expose in July of 2020 on racism at ESPN and the lack of opportunities for people of color. And the executives at ESPN said what I think people would expect, all the right things about we'd like to give more people more opportunities. We're continuing to grow, all of those things. And around the same time, I got a phone call asking me, would I step aside for Maria to host the NBA Finals and have me go back to being a sideline reporter? And they stressed it was my choice. They weren't telling me to do this because it was in my contract, but they were putting a lot of pressure on me. You know, I was being told, well, you're not a team player, which any woman in business knows is code, right? Women are supposed to be kumbaya and team players and helpful, and men are aggressive sharks and all of that. And I just felt like, hey, I worked so long, decades for this job. I have done everything that was asked. We put on some great shows leading up to the playoffs, and I wanted a chance to do it. And at this time, I was also getting ready to leave for the bubble and went down there, and it was a different set of equipment than I had been using to broadcast at home. So my very first day, I'm there, I'm using the new equipment, and I didn't know that if you leave a particular app running in the background, that the line from my hotel room, looking into my hotel room, to Bristol would stay open. So I thought I was done for the day. I did the things you would do on your first day in a hotel room. I spent hours unpacking, called my husband, talked to my kids, called some friends, called my doctor. And unfortunately, that entire time, nobody back at ESPN told me that there was an open line to my hotel room and anyone who looked at the feed could see me. No one shut it off. Decided, oh, she clearly doesn't know she's being watched unpacking or doing all these other things. And at least one person decided to just sit and watch and started spying on me like I was their own personal television show. And when they heard something they thought was juicy, they picked up their cell phone and they started recording my conversation on their cell phone.
A personal conversation?
Yeah.
What did you do as a sound reporter job for the NBA Finals? Because guess what that would clear the way for? For Maria to do the hosting for her. Yeah. So, I have declined. I don't know what their next move is, but they are feeling pressure because of all of that. And, I'm trying to figure out, like, how to just, my thing is that I wish Maria Taylor all the success in the world. She covers football, she covers basketball. If you need to give her more things to do because you're feeling pressure about your crappy long-time record on diversity, which by the way I myself know personally from the female side of it, go for it. Just find it somewhere else. You're not going to find it with me.
And I want to just kind of touch on the female side of it, part of that quote, and the frustration in my voice when I was talking about it. Because you guys are players. You know what it's like for women in this business. Yeah. And y'all know when I started, things are a lot better now than when I started 25 years ago. And I have been through a lot. I have fought through a lot of things in this business to get to where I am. And to me, it felt like, hey, if you have a problem, if it is this article, if it is something else, whatever it is, why are you coming to the two women here to solve it? Why is this a switch? Yeah. And, one thing I said in that conversation that didn't get publicized as much is, Maria worked on college football at the time. She was the sideline reporter on college football. And Reese Davis was the host, just like I was the host of the NBA Finals and the host of the NBA pregame show. And I asked my friend on the phone, I said, do you think ESPN would ever say to Reese Davis, hey, we want to give Maria this opportunity, you go be the sideline reporter? Do you guys think that would ever happen?
I don't. I don't.
They don't say that to men. So when I said go somewhere else, when I was feeling so frustrated, that's what I was talking about. And things kind of progressed at ESPN. HR did a full investigation into it. They told me that I had done nothing wrong that required any kind of discipline. Then 6 months later, they actually gave me a contract extension and a raise. And they actually elevated Maria in that same period as well. So I thought we had put things behind us. And unfortunately, I think there were still some people who had bad feelings, and they held on to this tape for a year, just kept it in their pocket. And then when there was a point they wanted some leverage with their own situations, they fed it to the press. And the story that ran again in the New York Times. And I will say now what I said then, which is I feel very sorry that any of this touched Maria Taylor, because she's a fellow woman in this business. It wasn't her fault what was going on. I wasn't talking about her actions. I was talking about someone else. And to even bring her into it, that was a mistake on my part. And if I caused her to be upset in any way, that stinks. I don't want to be that person, right? I don't want to do that. So I called, I texted, I asked our supervisors to set up a meeting, and I was just told she wasn't interested in talking to me, which is, of course, that's her thing. And I thought that when this became public, I should also apologize on air. And I did that.
Imagine yourself working somewhere 25 years for a job, and they want to use you as a scapegoat to fix something that they've been fucking up for years. It don't work like that, and that's not fair to nobody of no race. And that's how I took it. You know what I mean? And it just wasn't right. And that's why I didn't mind jumping out there and standing up for you, because I love you and I know you. And like we said earlier, we wouldn't be here without you. But people just got to put themselves in somebody else's shoes sometimes before you just jump out there and judge and make it racial. You know what I'm saying? If I would be upset the same goddamn way if I've been working my life for a job for 20 years, and just because you've been messing something up your whole last 20 years, you want to use my situation to make it look better and make me take a step back on the job that I've been working for. It don't work like that. And that wasn't fair, so I understood it. And that's why I stood up for you.
Well, and it was especially too in a time where there was so much racial tension. You know what I mean? Like, we knew what was in the air at the time, so that's why I kind of felt like, and that's what media, I had to learn the hard way on the Ime Udoka thing. I jumped out there without knowing everything and tried to be like, if this is what I think it is from what everyone else is hearing, this is not all that bad. And then I kind of hear and I'm just like, oh, shit. You know what I mean? But it's the media will take stuff, and we know we're all a part of the media. The media will take stuff and take what they need and run with it. You know what I mean? And no matter who it hurts or affects, it's not about being right. It's about being first, So who wants to be able to break that?
I will say that in the days after all of this sort of became more public, I was really moved by you. Matt, you got on a plane at 5 in the morning
Yeah, man.
to come be next to me on television.
Yeah, I remember.
And
You give me chills to think about it. Wasn't we were out in Phoenix, right?
Yep. And
Yeah.
with no hesitation.
I talked to him in Perk that morning.
Yeah. Well, because I mean, we know it's always hard because obviously this is a crazy business. The NBA is a crazy business, but you really find very few real friends. I'm cool with everybody, but real friends is hard to come by. So when I started hearing that Rachel's racist and this is, and I was just like, fuck no. And that's why I felt like I had to speak on it. Like I said, you kind of, you definitely helped start Jack and with the jump at the same time. And then as soon as I was ready to come, like you were like almost a mother figure from a standpoint, this is your camera. If you need help with this, I'll practice, call me. Here's my cell phone. We can do that. I'm just like, oh shit. Well, because she's giving me the kind of the blueprint. So you were always so welcoming because I felt like you wanted to see us succeed in this space, which was dope, and it's a cutthroat business. You know what I mean? Not all athletes are cut out for this shit. You know what I mean? So you kind of let us know earlier, like, hey, this is where you got to be, and if you need help, I'm here. So that's why I really kind of went out there and just like, nah, this is not. I can personally tell you for sure she's not racist. So it's just hard because, like I said, the tension in the air at that time in 2020 was just there. It was a real division because of what literally happened in the streets.